This is Terry Williamson with Cheryl and Lincoln with RVDestinations.blog. Check our blog out. We're doing the Great River Road Trip and we're working on our 5th episode, which will be Coles Creek Campground. We're in Illinois. Been a good bit of traffic today, but the roads are good. Our last stop was right on the Mississippi River. It was Chapter 4, and it was at Trail of Tears Campground in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. So we left there this morning, and now we're working on Chapter 5, which will be Coles Creek Campground. We made it to Coles Creek Campground in somewhere in Illinois, just west of St. Louis. It's a Corps of Engineering campground, and we're having to fill our freshwater tanks up with water because apparently the site only has electricity and no water. Never heard of that. So it's sort of slow filling our freshwater tanks up for some reason. I'm not sure why. We're a third full now. So we're just about to the campsite. We'll be checked in a few minutes. Okay, this is yesterday we got to Lake Carlisle, to the campground called Coles Creek Campground. It's a Corps of Engineering campground. There are about at least 4 Corps campgrounds on this lake, and they have a main office downtown in Carlisle. It's a nice campground, very spacious, a lot of sites, a lot of people using it. And we have Corps campground people that are, walking around. They're available to ask questions to. Real helpful. There's a laundromat here. Last night we've been on the road a week, so we washed clothes last night. I like the campground. Can't say enough good things about it. Last night the alarm on the truck went off. Thought that was strange. While we were in the camper, it went off. And of course I went out and checked on it, cut it off, but about 10 minutes later it went off again. Never could figure that out. It didn't go off again during the night. So that's the mystery. Lake Carlisle is a big lake. It's got a beach area on it. It's got a lot of boat ramps on it and several campgrounds on it. This is the cove that we're camped in. Right across this little cove is a parking lot. I'm not sure if there's a boat ramp over there. There may not be, but there is a public beach area over there. Looks fairly deep here, and you see people fishing here. A lot of riprap. I'm standing on riprap here, and so we'll see if Lincoln fishes here and gets hung and everything. Maybe not. You can see more campground. That's part of our campground down there at the end. People put their kayaks in this cove and go on out into the big water. Lake Carlisle, Carlisle, Illinois. Give you a few shots of the campground. You can see how spacious the sites are, plenty of room. They're plenty long. And I also see a lot of new looking Ford trucks in this campground, which makes me think somebody was accidentally making my truck alarm go off last night. Maybe the unlock on their key fob was messing with mine. I don't know. Okay, we're at the Melvin Lock and Dam in St. Louis, and this is the National Great Rivers Museum that we're fixing to go into. The locks are huge here. Can you get a shot of the locks over there? I don't see any ship activity or boat activity, but those are the locks. Come down here and get a shot of the museum. You can walk. So we had to drive about an hour and a half to get here from the campground, but this is one of the sites that I wanted to see. Look at that. The Great Rivers Museum. The Great Rivers Museum over there has a symbol on it, a Corps of Engineering symbol. Can you see that? That red symbol? So I guess the Corps of Engineers built these locks and dam. Okay. Okay. We have a flower display of cacti. Well, they're pretty. Okay, as we make our way toward the lock and dam. Welcome, you've arrived at a Great River Road Interpretive Center. You can see from this map, if you can see. Would you go touch Tennessee? Okay, Lincoln, show where we started there at Memphis. You see it? Yeah. And run your finger up the river so it'll show up on the film. And stop where we are now.
I don't know where we are.
We're in St. Louis, right there. You're on St. Louis right there. So that's where the lock and dam is that we're visiting today. Thank you, Lincoln. Inside the museum. Okay, this is what I've been looking for. How to float a big boat. So you can see that in the before shot, there were places only 3 to 4 feet deep, too shallow to float a big boat. After the lock and dam was put into place, that low point is 9-foot minimum depth, just right for big boats. So once the upper Mississippi River was too shallow for large boats to pass over the river bottom, here's some dates in 1878. Later the Corps increased it to 6 feet to allow the larger vessels. Then in 1928 a more efficient barge was designed. It could carry a lot of cargo for a little money, but it needed a deeper navigation channel. In 1930, the Corps began building a series of locks and dams to create a 9-foot channel. The stairway of water was completed by 1940. This screen is showing a live view of the lock and dam. So you can see the water flowing. Wow. Souvenirs?
You're not recording, right? Oh, wow.
Okay, the tour starts at 1 o'clock and it's about 11 o'clock now, so if we come back at 1 o'clock, we'll get to tour the lock. So right now we'll go downtown Alton, get a bite to eat, and maybe come back.
Don't paddle often, let the river carry you, and just listen to the birds, listen to the animals that live around it.
As the Mississippi continues on its journey southward, its life-sustaining power can be seen at St. Anthony Falls, the largest waterfall on the river, with a drop of nearly 49 feet. In the 1800s, these falls provided power for scores of lumber and flour mills, prompting the growth of industry and giving rise to the city of Minneapolis.
Well, the Mississippi River is what creates the breadbasket that feeds our country. And the Mississippi River really serves as the bloodline of America. Whether you're in Iowa or Illinois or anywhere along the river, it's fertile valleys that come off of it, and it feeds our people. It creates the agricultural abundance of North America, which allows us to feed ourselves.
I farm with my wife and my 3 adult sons, and my sons are at least the 4th or 5th generation to farm in this valley. The soils around here were all laid in by the river, so the river is a big factor on our farming here in the valley. Our volume would approach 600,000–700,000 bushel. That amount of production from our farm would probably equal 10, 12, maybe as much as 15 individual barges. The Mississippi River is great because it's centrally located in the United States. It runs right to the breadbasket of the United States, where grain is produced, so it's a logical place to ship grain on. The Ohio River runs in, brings coal in. The Illinois River brings more grain in. They all run together to form the Mississippi River system. It's a great river system.
Throughout time, the power of the river has dramatically shaped the land around it. Continuing our journey down the upper Mississippi, we encounter great bluffs carved from solid rock. These bluffs help define the floodplain. Flowing alongside these stone walls, the river follows a course set by glaciers thousands of years ago during the Ice Age. Along the bluffs lies Hannibal, Missouri, an old river town once favored by steamboat pilots and crews, and the birthplace of Samuel Clemens, better known as Mark Twain.
Well, for a boy such as Sam Clemens growing up in Hannibal, when he took a look at the river, that was the avenue of commerce. So freedom, in terms of getting away from your present surroundings, that was the way to do it. And so he looked at that. Also, as you take a look at the river and take a look at a book like Huckleberry Finn, the two principal characters of Jim and Huck keep coming back to the raft, and floating on the raft is the time that they can just sit back and they can daydream. It was just a release from all that was taking place around them in their lives.
Worked on the river all my life. Started on the boats as a popcorn popper and calliope player, hot dog salesman, and ended up being in the pilot house. The biggest thing could happen to an inhabitant of a little river town out in the middle of nowhere is steamboat pull into town and New Orleans Jazz Band on there playing and popcorn popping, flags flying, calliope going, and it was the biggest thing that had happened since the previous year when maybe the same boat was there, or circus.
Every great river is part of an ecosystem, and the adjoining wetlands are critical to maintaining that ecosystem.
The river is this amazing green corridor through this highly developed Midwestern part of the United States. And I can go down to the river and I can see an amazing ecosystem still functioning. And I can witness spectacular migrations of birds and see fishes coming up on the floodplains to spawn.
Transportation of cargo, products such as grain, coal, and petroleum, fueling the nation's economy. The Melvin Price Locks and Dam here in Alton, Illinois is the newest of the 29 on the Mississippi.
This is a navigational lock and dam. Some people ask us if we have anything to do with flood control, and we have very little to do with flood control. The reason we're here is to lock boats, commercial boats primarily, up and down the river. It took a little over 10 years to build the lock and dam, and the cost was right at $1 billion. On the economic side, we lock around 75 million tons of cargo through Mel Price every year. Most of that is grain products, and most of that is destined for overseas markets. Grain products are going southbound. In return, we lock coal and petroleum northbound that fuels factories in Chicago and some of the other cities.
This is a large floodplain river system. What that would mean is that from year to year, the river channel would never stay the same. We would constantly move. We've put in structures out there to make sure it stays there, but yet it's still dynamic. It constantly wants to reclaim its floodplain, and so you can just see how powerful that is.
Every great river floods, but in 1993, parts of the Mississippi River watershed received nearly twice the normal annual rainfall in a very short period of time. As the Mississippi spilled over its banks, it proved once again the power of the river.
Floods like the 1993 flood where, it overflowed and went over, levees and that, and it decided that it wanted to go where it wanted to be.
We lost a lot of houses here in town. After the flood, they had to take them out. We lost a lot of people out of town. I think we had around 1,000 people, now it's 600 and something. We lost a lot.
Usually we're facing drought, but in '93, you had a veritable inland ocean here. It could have definitely ruined everything in terms of the livelihood and the community, but Grafton and Elsa and Alton all bounced back. The people who live along the river, who have been part of this area for generations, knew that they were going to bring it back. And I will tell you, it's better today than it ever was in '93.
While the river's power must be respected, its nurturing qualities draw people to live near it, play on it, and for many, to work on the river.
First boat I ever rode, the captain told me, he says, if you wear out your pair of shoes, he says, you'll be out here forever. And I said, well, these are already wore out. I said, I guess I'm going to be here a while. Out here, the scenery changes, you're moving. I just think you feel free out here.
My grandfather worked in the river, my dad did for the ferry system. They were all seamen. My grandfather was a port engineer, my dad was an engineer. And I worked on a river, my son worked on a river. I got cousins that work on a river. If the river wasn't here tomorrow, we'd be lost. It's just a livelihood. And I grew up with it,
The Mississippi is the true life waters of the United States. It touches so many lives. It's an incredible story of America. You've got so much heritage, so much geography. The people that live along the river are so colorful and diverse. The Mississippi really is the heart of America. It's the artery that so much of the life of America pulses through it.
The river's an amazing place to me. It's a second home. When you talk about what a riverman is, he's as comfortable here on the river as he is in his own backyard. He has to love two. He has to love his family at home and the river. I have two families.
Memphis, Tennessee, a river town, once a thriving market and depot for king cotton from the Delta, shipped both north and south by steamboat.
Memphis was the center and shipping point for a vast cotton growing region. You could draw a circle with a radius of 100, 150 miles, and that whole area of rich cotton land sent its cotton to be classed and sold in Memphis and shipped out of Memphis to New England mills, to European mills.
Traveling the river along with the cotton crop was another homegrown product, a new musical sound called the Memphis Blues.
Memphis has got a combination of people that stayed here, You had people like W.C. Handy that came out of Florence, Alabama. He was an educated player. Then you had people like Junior Wells that was born here. Then you had people like Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, that came to Memphis in order to find gigs, with their style of Delta music, which when they got to Beale Street, that music from the Delta was so jumping and so energizing that the people in Memphis, they added their educated style to the field style, and they created a Memphis sound.
As
as I began to talk with people and learn from people, I learned that the river was different than Tennessee and different than Mississippi and different than Arkansas. The river was itself a state, and that's the way people looked at it. So, you know, you might live on Island 35 or Island 49 or on Mud Island, and those parts, that was literally your home base.
Go back and forth, change around. But I think basically, in Riverman's mind, the adventure is what's coming around that next bend, what's going to be the next day, where are you going to be, you're going to have fog that night, you're going to get stuck on a sandbar, or any number of variables that can come up with the mighty Mississippi.
You know, that river run from the Gulf of Mexico to God knows where else. You know, it never stops running, it's restless. If you go out there on any given day and just stand out and watch that river, it's restless. It's got a story to tell. You can hear it crying out, it's got something to say, but you got to keep up with it. It don't tarry long.
The river is really one of the backbone structures of American history. America wouldn't be the same without the Mississippi River and the way it developed.
When you're looking at that water, you realize it's topsoil from Kentucky, and it's tree branches and bark from Montana. I mean, all of this is coming from both sides of the country in the Mississippi. So when you look at the water that's rushing into the Gulf of Mexico, you realize that that's us.
Once you ever lived on it and you were part of it, you'll always be part of it. You never will leave the river completely. It gets in your blood, I think.
That body of water, that big long river, it's an artery. It's an artery of the earth, and it's her blood that flows down the center of Turtle Island, where the United States is.
It's uncontrollable, and there's something fascinating about what we can't control. You know, it's kind of like a cat. You can pet it and you can nurture it, but you're never in charge of it. In the
Pop tees on his way to go skinny dipping in the public lake area. Just told Mom Cheryl.
What?
Here's your phone.
It's in the truck.
We'll get it on the website. Let's do that when we get back.
This is the parking lot in the public area. Lincoln and I just got through swimming. Now we're walking around letting our clothes dry before we get back in the truck. It wasn't too cold. It was fun. We'll have to film that beach area in a minute, so it'll be on the blog. We saw people fishing off these rocks, so we wanted to walk down here and see what it looks like. We have rods and reels, and we have worms, so you know what Jack Paladin said, have worms, we'll fish. Yeah, that's the boat ramp down there at the end of the point. And this is Lake Carlisle, the largest lake in the state of Illinois. Nice lake. Haven't seen a lot of people or a lot of boats in this campground area, but there's so many campgrounds on this lake, so many boat ramps. I mean, they don't all have to flood the same one. We haven't found a good fishing spot, maybe one. Everything we found is like you see Lincoln walking on, where you have to walk down rocks and fish from the edge of the rocks. We did find one sandy, beachy area in the campground that you could fish from. We're gonna check that out later. So we got 3 ramps here in this parking lot. Got a guy taking his jet skis out. Looks like we got 2 boats waiting to take out. Our campground, our camper is right in front of us. Hey Lincoln, can you see our camper? I see several sailboats. There's 1, 2, 3. And it's windy out here, so I can see where they would be enjoying it. Coles Creek Campground, night 2. We bought 3 bundles of wood on the side of the road. They're dry as they can be. I didn't even use any starter to start it, just paper. I didn't have to use any of the lighter fluid, lamp oil. It's going good. We're fixing to roast hot dogs. Well, this is great. After an afternoon swimming with Lincoln in the lake, then we come home and start a fire and warm up. This is great.
This is gonna be better.
This is camping. And Lincoln is making his own stick to cook hot dogs with.
Fancy. Well, I don't know about this, you know.
Show us that. Yeah, keep doing it. Are you gonna try to make it a little sharper?
Yeah.
Of course, you don't want to make it too little because it may burn up faster if you do.
That thing's filming me.
I don't have your face in it.
But it's got my hands.
Where'd you learn to do that? Are you part Indian?
Really, Pop?
Oh, you could have learned how to do that at the Wycliffe Mounds if you had read everything on the wall.
I read nothing there.
Why?
I looked at the holes in the ground.
Yeah, that was really interesting. That's where they had posts that formed the walls of the houses. And those holes are still there?
I wouldn't be surprised if they made those holes. They could have made those holes, Bumpty.
Okay, we have a few things to tell you about the Melvin Price Lock and Dam. Like everything on this trip that we had planned to do and see, we had a little surprises when we got there. Some things were better than we thought, and some things weren't quite what we expected. One thing at the Melvin Price Lock and Dam was it was amazing. That's the newest lock and dam on the Mississippi River, and it was huge, and it was amazing to see the cargo go through that lock and dam. However, we wanted to tour the lock, and when we signed up for the tour at 1 o'clock, you had to sign up for it. About 30 minutes later, we found out that the tour really wasn't going to be very much. It was mostly just going to be standing there listening to the guy tell all the facts about the lock and dam and the history of the river.
That's because the elevator is broken.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. The elevator that takes you to the top was broken, so we wouldn't be able to do the tour that takes you inside the lock and up to the top, which is what we wanted to do. We didn't get to do that, so we backed out of the tour at 1 o'clock and just we watched the movie that told you all about it, but we didn't do the tour. We still have another chance to see more details about locks when we get up into the UP of Michigan and go to the Sioux locks. That's S-O-O, the Sioux locks. everybody talks about how impressive they are, and I've never been, but I'm looking forward to it, and I'm hoping they have a tour there. If they do, we'll take it.
It's only got one slide out, which is good.
Wow. I don't have tours table and 4 chairs. It would have had a U-shaped dining, so we could have slept with people.
Oh yeah. Yes, I am.
Blow it again.
Not on camera. Hey, see? Boom.
I believe you got it.
You're good. This piece of wood's blocking my wind. There we go.
That worked, but it went to the back.